And now we have some breaking news coming in at the top of the bulletin from Sri Lanka. In the latest updates, we are learning that at least 31 people have been confirmed dead and 14 others missing as the country continues to face one of its worst weather-related disasters that it did in the recent years. Sri Lankan President Anurakumara Dissanayake convened an emergency meeting earlier today with disaster management officials, opposition leaders and senior armed forces to discuss strategies to mitigate the impacts of the crisis. Authorities warn that persistent heavy rainfall, which is expected to reach up to 200 millimeters, could trigger additional landslides and floods, particularly in central and hilly regions. This now raises concerns over further damage and casualties. And now let's move on to news from Russia. President Vladimir Putin has stated today that a peace plan discussed by the United States and Ukraine could serve as the foundation for future agreements to end the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. While acknowledging some points still need to be addressed, Putin expressed that Russia would continue fighting if Ukraine refuses to withdraw from contested territories. Listen in.
Мы перед моим визитом в США, перед визитом на Аляску, обсуждали это с американскими переговорщиками. И после этого возник вот тот перечень возможных договоренностей из 28 пунктов. И, как я уже объявлял публично, он нам по определенным каналам был передан. Мы с ним ознакомились. После этого состоялись переговоры в Женеве между американской делегацией и украинской делегацией. И они, я так понял, между собой решили, что все эти 28 пунктов нужно разделить на 4 составляющих.
And slamming the Europe and its allies, Putin also indicated that Russia is prepared to offer a security pledge to Europe, but only if Ukraine's military pulls back. He reiterated Russia's stance that Ukrainian leadership is illegitimate, making it difficult to negotiate directly with Kyiv. As Russian forces reportedly advance faster across Ukraine, Putin made it clear that Russia would use military force to achieve its goals if Ukraine does not comply. He rejected accusations that U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff had shown bias towards Moscow in peace talks, calling the suggestion completely nonsense. Listen in.
Дипломатический язык, потому что одно дело, в общем, сказать, что Россия не собирается нападать на Европу, это для нас звучит смешно, правда? Никогда не собирались, но если они хотят услышать от нас, ну давайте мы это зафиксируем. Вопросов нет. Если они напугали своих граждан, и те хотят услышать, что мы не собираемся, и у нас в планах нет, никаких агрессивных нет планов в отношении Европы, пожалуйста, мы готовы это зафиксировать как угодно. Может быть, в этом и есть смысл, имея в виду, если мы хотим все вместе поговорить и обсудить, и какие-то точки расставить в вопросах. Значит, мы и до сих пор получаем заходы о прекращении боевых действий там. Войска Украины уйдут из занимаемых ими территорий, вот тогда и прекратятся боевые действия. Не уйдут, мы добьемся этого вооруженным путем. Темп движения наших войск по этим всем направлениям увеличивается заметно. Но вот я сейчас просто не хочу совершать какой-то ошибки такой по количеству километров, но из месяца в месяц количество, так скажем, возвращаемых нашими войсками территорий на всех основных направлениях увеличивается. То есть темп движения войск увеличивается. Но самая, на мой взгляд, главная проблема для...
Let's now welcome Mark Sutherland, who is a geopolitical expert, joining us live from London into this discussion here at NewsX World. Thanks, Mark, for joining us here. Now, Putin clearly is adamant. He says he will achieve its goal in Ukraine if Ukraine does not withdraw its military. There's a very strong statement being made by Putin once again. What options is Ukraine really left with?
Pretty good to be with you. Well, it's the classic Mexican standoff, and the fact that people could see this coming, if I may say, in my humble opinion, for some time, because Russia has taken land. There's been a million people killed on the Russian side, and up to that kind of amount on the Ukrainian side, with all the devastation that has come with it, and the attacks on their infrastructure, etc. It's appalling. You attack a sovereign state in February 2022. And the negotiations are, according to what Putin, what the administration, what the president is saying, what Russians are saying, is we have taken this land and we just wish the Ukrainian forces to withdraw, and that will then be the end of that. And of course, as Lavrov has said, there's been a peace agreement on the table since January, February 2024. So how you negotiate this is going to be profoundly difficult. Sadly, I can't see the comments that Putin and then the other Russian then made. This is going to be extremely difficult then to negotiate if Zelensky turns around and says, understandably, no, we are not moving back, because how much more then territory will they then take? And also, as the Russians have put forward, to say, well, come under our wing, we will defend you, security is down to us. And then understandably, the Ukrainian people will turn around and say, well, if we do that, then look at what happened in 2022. And I don't say any of this to be clever. We have to go back to this, that sadly, wrongly, a country was then, a sovereign country was then invaded. The problem is all then the fallout of that. And you are fully aware in regard to Zelensky, one of his ex-business partners, who then started his production company. There was all this accusation of fraud. Where is money going? The previous American administration, under the Biden administration, put billions of dollars into Ukraine. We, within the UK and other European countries, have been sending them armaments as well. And I have, on many occasions on this program, have said we want this war to end. We need to get people around the negotiation table seriously for this then to do so. Kriti.
Well, thank you, Mark, but do stay on with us, as I would like you to share your perspective on another key development, this one coming from Italy. Now, a Ukrainian man suspected of coordinating the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline sabotage has arrived in Germany. His transfer follows approval by Italy's top court last week. The explosion severely disrupted Russian gas deliveries to Europe, and both Russia and Western countries have called it an act of sabotage. Identified as a Serie K under German privacy laws, the suspect denies any involvement. German prosecutors say he has been part of a group that planted devices on the pipelines near the Danish island of Bornholm. He now faces charges including collusion to cause an explosion, anti-constitutional sabotage, and destruction of critical infrastructure. Now, the suspect was detained in Italy last August and will appear before an investigating judge in Karlsruhe tomorrow. Investigators have spent years piecing together the mystery behind this high-profile sabotage case. I request Mark to join us back here on this discussion. Mark, now this is a significant step forward in the probe where the suspect has now been moved to Frankfurt for further prosecution. How do you see this proceeding from here?
There's another man that's accused who is in Poland, and the Polish authorities, it's been reported, have not handed him over to the German authorities yet. That is floating there. the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline was extremely serious, followed by a very well-known journalist in America, Seymour Hersh. So this was then came out. There were many theories. How was this done deliberately? Did various people know about this at the time? And it's extremely serious. So it is this prosecution then to actually hand him to Germany because of the fallout. We're also in this ideological debate where people want to get rid of fossil fuel. The deindustrialization of Europe also comes, and the stupidity of that also comes into this, but also then wanting to frame this whole thing, understandably, as we've just said, the Russian invasion. But it then goes across this whole framing, then there can be accusations on all sides who blew up what, because this is an important gas pipeline that comes from Russia that goes into, then is feeding Europe, feeding Germany. And just quickly, the other thing is that the Russians have said that, or the chatter is a number of years ago that they'd already begun to slow down the amount of gas that they were then supplying to Europe, which is always an interesting discussion, because as you and I know, we've discussed on this channel, is the fact that what gives the Russians the war chest to continue to their war in the Ukraine is the fact that they are selling energy around the world and with all their ghost ships, etc. So that is the reality. And it was more the fallout of all the accusations of who did it, who didn't do it, and we ended up going down the conspiracy rabbit hole. Pretty.
All right, Mark, and like you did mention about the other suspect who remains not transferred, do you think Poland is going to relent as far as the handing over of this Ukrainian suspect is concerned?
Well, we've just had there was a bombing of rail tracks in regard to train tracks there. We wonder who had actually done that. The Polish authorities at the moment have not. We wait to see if Mr. Tusk, president, is going to be pushed on that. I think it is important that these people are then brought to justice, because the other thing is, without sounding too conspiratorial in my humble opinion, we could end up being at an Archduke Ferdinand situation like the First World War, an incident and then sparks things and then things escalate. I have used that over the last few weeks to refer to that. It's very important that everyone keeps a cool head. But if people have done wrong, then they need to be passed back. This had an effect on I believe, on the German economy. It's not particularly pleasant if someone then bombs a pipeline, as we've seen elsewhere in the world, to stop energy flowing, and then the ramifications then on the citizens of your particular country. We will wait and see. It all depends how that unfolds in Germany, and maybe behind the scenes as well. The fact that Europe is trying to keep a united front, particularly where Russia, of course, is concerned, it will be behind the scenes that these conversations that we're not privy to may be going on. Pretty.
All right. I thank you for now, Mark, for joining us and sharing your opinions with us here at NewsX World. With that, viewers, let's move on. We have some breaking developments coming in from Hong Kong as far as the apartment firing is concerned. Now, authorities have confirmed that the death toll has risen to at least 75. The fire, which broke out at a high-rise apartment complex in the early hours yesterday, has left many dozens more injured, and scores are still missing as firefighters continue to search through the charred remains. Despite over 24 hours of firefighting efforts, flames were still visible in parts of the complex, which houses nearly 2,000 units across 8 buildings. The fire's cause remains under investigation, with authorities focusing on the role of bamboo scaffolding and plastic mesh used in the ongoing renovations at the site. Now moving on, viewers, the Israeli military has carried out